pollution, and microplastics. What is plastic pollution? Plastic pollution refers to the accumulation of synthetic plastic products in the environment to the point where they disrupt wildlife habitats and even human health. Next is microplastics. Microplastics are plastic particles that are smaller than 5 millimeters, which is about the size of sesame seed if you want to visualize. They are categorized into two types, which is primary microplastics and secondary microplastic. Primary microplastic is intentionally manufactures plastics such as pellets, fibers, and secondary microplastics form from breakdown of larger pieces of plastic such as bottles, bags, and tires. Why it's a problem? First, it is of environmental persistence. Most plastics do not biodegradable, but they do photodegrade, which means they are breakdown into smaller pieces called microplastics and nanoplastics. Time spent for a single plastic to decompose is between 450 until 1000 years. Second, it had an impact on wildlife and ecosystems. Microplastics are a physical and chemical threat to 1,500 species of animals, such as ingestion, like turtles always mistake plastic bag as jellyfish. Next is entanglement. Discarded fishing net drowns and maim the marine mammals such as turtles, seals, and even seagulls. Next is ecosystem suffocation, such as plastic debris can smother coral reefs and blocking sunlight. And lastly, it is also a human health risk. The food chain, which is microplastics, are consumed by fish and plankton, and eventually it will reach to humans through seafood or drinking water. Next is it is also chemical leaching. Plastics are contain BPA, which can interfere with hormones, reproductive health, and can be linked to increased risk of cancer. Last but not least is the new discoveries also has been made. Recently, microplastics have been detected in human blood, lung, livers, and even placenta.
Next, I will be walking you through the scientific foundation of plastics and microplastics pollution. To understand why this is a crisis, we first have to look at the chemistry. Plastics are essentially long chains of molecules called polymers, usually made from fossil fuels. The reason they are so successful as a material is also why they are an environmental nightmare. They are held together by incredibly strong carbon-to-carbon bonds. In the natural world, most bacteria and fungi simply don't have the enzymes necessary to break these synthetic bonds down, which is why a plastic bottle can last for centuries. This leads to critical biological concepts, which is bioaccumulation and biomedification. Bioaccumulation happens when an individual animal, like a fish, eats microplastics faster than its body can get rid of them. Biomagnification is even more dangerous, which is it's the process where the concentration of these plastics and their associated toxins increase as they move up the food web, starting from tiny plankton and ending on our dinner plates. Now that we understand the chemical glue that makes plastic so persistent, we have to ask, how exactly does it get into our ocean and ecosystems? Scientists categorize these sources into two main groups, which is primary and secondary microplastics. Now, let's look at primary microplastics first. These are intentional pollutants, meaning they were manufactured to be microscopic from the start. A major contributor here is the cosmetic industry. For years, exfoliating scrubs, shower gels, and even toothpaste contain microbeads. When you rinse these products off, they are too small for wastewater treatment plants to filter out. So, they flow directly into the sea. Another massive primary source is noodles. These are tiny plastics pellets used as the raw material for almost every plastic product on Earth. During shipping or factory handling, billions of these pellets are spilled into the environment annually, acting like seeds of pollution. Next, we have secondary microplastics, which are a much larger and more complex problem. These are fragments that break off from larger plastic items through a process of physical and chemical degradation. Think about the synthetic clothes we wear. polyester, nylon, and acrylic. Every single time we run a lot of laundry, thousands of tiny synthetic fibers break off and enter the water. But it's not just clothes. Every time you drive, the friction between your car tires and the road creates tire wear particles, which is a mix of synthetic rubber and plastics that wash into the soil and drains. Of course, we cannot forget the microplastics, which is the millions of tons of mismanaged waste like single-use bags and bottles that are abandoned in landfills or litter, because only about 9% of plastic is ever recycled. The vast majority of our waste eventually finds its way into the environment, where the sun and waves begin the slow process of shredding them into the microplastics we see today. And finally, let's look at the mechanism or the how behind the damage. Plastic doesn't disappear, it undergoes photodegradation. UV radiation from the sun makes the plastic brittle, causing it to fragment into millions of microscopic pieces. Interestingly, plastic degrades much slower in the ocean than on the land because the water keeps the plastic cool and shielded from some UV rays. The most alarming mechanism, however, is what we call the toxic sponge effect. Microplastics are hydrophobic, meaning they repel water but attract oils. In the ocean, they act like magnets for dangerous chemicals like pesticides and heavy metals, concentrating these toxins up to 1 million times higher than the surrounding water. When marine life eats these particles, they suffer from food satiation. Their stomachs feel full because of the plastic, so they stop eating actual food and eventually die of starvation while their bellies are literally full of the trash. This is the invisible cycle that is currently disrupting our entire marine ecosystem.
Do you guys know that Malaysia has been listed among the top countries contributing plastic waste to the ocean? Our long coastline combined with poor waste management and high plastic usage makes it easier for plastic waste to leak into marine environment. To understand how serious the problem is, let's look at some statistics. Studies show that Malaysians use a very high amount of plastic per person compared to many other countries, especially in Southeast Asia. Single-use plastics such as plastic bags, food packaging, and takeaway containers are commonly used every day. Plastic pollution has devastating effects on animals, especially marine life. Turtles, fish, seabirds, and dolphins often mistake plastic for food. Plastic bags can look like jellyfish, while small plastic pieces can resemble fish eggs. When animals consume plastic, it can block their digestive systems, cause internal injuries, and eventually lead to starvation and death. Many animals also become trapped in plastic waste, such as fishing nets, rings, which restrict their movement and cause severe injury. Over time, large plastic items break into smaller pieces called microplastic. These tiny particles are almost impossible to remove from the environment. Fish, shellfish, and other marine organisms consume microplastic without realizing it. As humans eat seafood, these microplastics move up the food chain and end up inside our bodies. This means plastic pollution doesn't stay in the ocean, it comes back to us through the food we eat and the water we drink. Microplastics are now found in human lungs, blood, and even drinking water. While scientists are still studying their long-term effects, microplastics are known to carry harmful chemicals. These chemicals may interfere with hormones, cause inflammation, and increase the risk of health problems over time. So it is important for us to reduce plastic use in our daily life.
Next, what can we do? There are the roles of the scientists, the roles of society, and the roles of the individuals.
For the roles of the scientists, in invention, scientists are solving the plastic crisis by moving away from fossil fuels and turning to nature's toolkit to create materials that are designed to disappear, so there will be no worries to throw away. One of the inventions that scientists developing are growing motion packaging by using fungal roots that's called mycelium to bind together separate farm waste into tough foam-like blocks that replace styrofoam and can be composted in your backyard to feed the soil. Next, they use seaweed, a fast-growing marine plant that requires no fresh water, or lime to create clear films and wrappers that safely dissolve in water or soil within weeks. In human health research, scientists made discoveries in 2024 and 2025 by finding microplastics in human blood, lungs, and brain tissue. Now, they are studying nanoplastics, which is very small particles that can enter our cells and potentially trigger inflammation or change how our genes work. Scientists also using advanced technology like AI-powered satellite imaging to track plastic concentration in ocean by measuring the roughness of the water surface. This helps them to identify which rivers or factories are the biggest polluters.
Roles of society. The role of society is to act as the organized support system that makes it possible for everyone to live without creating plastic waste. For example, scientists invent the tools, individuals make the choices, and society builds the bridge between them through laws, business models, and community rules. In 2026, this role is often described as a quintuple helix approach where government, industry, academia, and civil society work together like gears in a single machine. The government can set the standard of play so that protecting the environment is not just a choice but a requirement. Governments lead this effort by turning off the tap through strict policies like the Global Plastics Charity and Extended Producer Responsibility (EPR), which legally forces companies to pay for the collection and recycling of the waste they create. At the same time, the industrial sector must redesign the marketplace by moving away from single-use packaging toward refill and reuse systems, while community organizations and schools provide the education needed to shift cultural norms. By working together, these actions from society can stop plastic pollution and microplastics at the source. Roles of the individuals. The role of individuals is to act as the driving force of the movement by shifting their daily habits and demanding better standards from the world around them. By practicing the power of choice, which saying no to things you do not need like extra plastic bags and switching to permanent items like cloth bags. Next, they can use the power of voice to force big changes. Individuals can use their voices to support plastic-free laws and use their buying power to reward companies that use sustainable materials like seaweed or fungi. In the end, all of these individual efforts create a powerful bottom-up pressure that forces governments and businesses to move faster toward a cleaner and plastic-free future.
To conclude, plastic pollution and microplastics are no longer just an environmental issue that we can easily see. Today, it has become a serious global health and ecological crisis, what started as visible plastic waste has now turned into an invisible problem where tiny plastic particles have entered our soil, our ocean, and even our own bodies. As we move to 2026, it is clear that recycling alone is not enough to solve this problem. We cannot simply recycle our way out. By working together, scientists, society, and individuals, we can fight this issue from the root cause. Therefore, we must take this issue seriously to protect marine life, preserve the beauty of our oceans, and ultimately improve our own health.